To the Dore Report. I'm Billy Derrick, and I'm now happy to be joined by Rhett Wiseman, the now weekly contributor here to the Dore Report. The weekly appearance here for Mr. Rhett Wiseman. He throws up the anchor down sign there, and I told you earlier, Rhett, off air, we're always able to get more positivity with you on, and but we're gonna deep dive. We're gonna dive into the Vandy boys like we always do. But Rhett, thanks again for taking the time. You doing all right here in we're almost to summer. I'm sure you're excited about that.
Yep. As this temperature starts getting warmer, it only means one thing usually, and that's championship baseball. So I remember when we were at Vandy, as soon as that weather starts to heat up, we start to get more and more excited for the postseason. And I know some of those guys are starting to feel that and relate to that as well.
No doubt about it. And you mentioned the weather's starting to warm up, but I think, of course, you know it well, exams also start to heat up, especially this week. And I think it's usually around that final, you enter that final stretch of SEC play. They've got, of course, 3 series left. They got 2 on the road and then 1 at home. They'll end with LSU. But I heard from Jackie tweeted something about how Bulger had 3 exams on the day of the Louisville game, which is unreal. Will and I talked about it in the first segment about couldn't imagine trying to play but also focus on those exams and those papers. So for you as a player, Rhett, obviously the same sort of stuff is happening to these guys as it was to you and your teammates at Vanderbilt. But what is that like of exam week and even the week ahead of preparing and working on those papers, but you're also in the thick of SEC play and you're playing teams that are really good and series that matter. So what are these guys kind of going through right now? Especially, I know they're all looking forward to having exams done with, but what is that like for these guys, especially right now?
Yeah, Billy, it's part of it. I mean, it's just it's part of it. It's not easy getting through Vanderbilt's academic rigor with, coupled with playing in the best conference in college baseball. And that's why Vandy guys are different, because they are expected to perform at a high level on the field, and they're also expected to perform at a high level in the classroom. And that's something that Coach Corbin always, really instills in players. This is not like an Ole Miss, a Mississippi State. This is not, like a Tennessee and some of these other schools, Alabama, right, where schools don't matter. School doesn't matter as much, okay? There are other schools in this conference, as well as some other conferences around the country, where players can get passes. That's not how it is at Vandy. Acceptance rate dipped below 5% this past year. It's one of the hardest schools in the country to get into. And once you're in here, it doesn't get any easier. So those guys are expected to perform at a high level in the classroom and then show up and play one of the best teams in the country in Louisville last night. And it can wear on you. I mean, it's a lot mentally. You're waking up early to take exams. It's a lot of information. It can be tiring, and it can be exhausting. But they do it every year. It's something that guys have to get used to, and in the long run, it makes them better.
Rhett, we talked about kind of flipping that just about every year. No matter how good the team is. Obviously, the team last year was very good. Ended up in the final. They still felt like they flipped that switch. Even though they were playing good baseball. At this point, with exams kind of starting to wrap up, I think I don't know if guys are still kind of trying to take them and study for them this weekend, but is that part of the flip of the switch? Okay, exams are over. Like you said, the weather's starting to heat up a little bit. How much of a burden kind of goes off of those guys where you got 3 SEC series left, and then the postseason, you're able to simply focus on baseball? How big of a part of kind of the flipping of the switch is kind of taking that backpack off and leaving the books in the locker for a little bit and just focusing on baseball?
It's huge, Billy, but not in the aspect that you'd think of, okay, school's done. We would say, okay, there's no more studying. Now we get to hang out with each other all day long. We wake up, everybody goes to breakfast. We all go to the field. You get your work in. You leave the field. Everybody gets dinner together. Then you shoot back over to the dorms. You hang out all night long, and you do it again the next day with no other responsibilities. That is the fun part. school is school. You know, these guys are used to that. They've been going to school for, you know, years and years and years. The past 15 years of their life, they've been going to school. So being able to be with the guys more and be more involved with baseball, they can get to the field at 9 a.m. and they can stay there till 9 p.m. They have nothing else to do. They have nothing else to answer for. It's just playing baseball. And at Vanderbilt, you have an academic system that is a lot of pressure. So a lot of times when the exams end and this warm weather comes, you know, it's kind of a new life for some of these guys with that weight lifted. And you have other schools who might be running out of gas. So this could be an enzyme to kind of push our guys, while in that same conversation, some of these other schools could be starting to fade, and we can even see that kind of trending with some of the top teams in the country already.
No doubt about it. And Rhett, let's get into the Louisville game last night. Again, you know, you've talked about how, you know, you try to watch as much baseball as you can, a stretch of the season leading into postseason play. Something that stood out to me, Rhett, was, of course, the bottom of the lineup is kind of the point of the lineup that had been struggling, but the top of the order, you saw Bradfield have 3 strikeouts. Calvin Hewitt struck out twice. Spencer Jones had 3 strikeouts. Egan had 2 strikeouts. Of course, the top of the lineup, you saw Spencer Jones with a hit, and then Javier Vaz had a hit, but those were the only 2 hits of the night. So, you know, with this team, what do you think are kind of steps that they can take, like practical steps, whether it's in the batter's box before the game, kind of helping with their mental side of it? What are some of the things that, you know, I know you're not coaching these guys, but you've been under Tim Corbin, and, you know, so what would kind of, if you had kind of a piece of advice, you know, the Vandy boys are kind of here, all ears, they're listening to Rhett Wiseman here. What would you kind of tell them if you were able to kind of, you know, speak with them for a little bit, especially with exams starting to end? And, you know, you're seeing, I mentioned the top of the lineup struggle last night. What are some of the things they can do to kind of get that unity back and kind of get some chemistry back going?
Yeah, you know, I think they're really close, Billy. And when you look at the numbers, they're the best fielding team in the country. They're one of the best pitching teams in the country. Championships is all pitching and defense. That's all you need. Now you need to score a couple runs every game, but they got a team ERA of 3. I mean, you can't ask for better than that. Their pitching has been incredible, and they don't have any, you know, real big name pitching, you know, prospects and big guys. You know, the guys they have are great, but there's no Kumar, there's no Jack Leiter. But they're putting together unbelievable performances, one after the McIlvain. Guys, I can't say enough about how strong the pitching and the defense has been. So at this point, guys just have to grind. They have to just battle out at bats. You know, they had to deal with a bad umpire last night. You know, it's gonna happen. They have to just compete. I mean, Enrique got called out on a strikeout on a pitch that was in the other batter's box at his shins. There's nothing you can do about that. And it's just about competing. It's about not getting to that position. It's about putting the ball in play early in the at bat. It's about not missing your pitches early, and that's all about, you know, being aggressive. But, you know, you got a guy like Jack Bulger comes up in the 9th inning and swings at the first pitch in a 1-run game. Great. That's how you have to be. You got to be aggressive early in counts. You know, Bulger got up there leading off the bottom of the 9th, and I was like, okay, got to be aggressive right here. First pitch takes a hack to try and tie the game. Beautiful.
I thought that was out of here, by the way. That off the bat, that looked like it was over the wall in left field.
And I'm even talking about the first pitch of the at bat that he fouled off. He fouled back, but it was a good swing. But and he just misses one and gets in on him a little bit, and he pops it up to left. But it's just the aggressiveness early. Got to stay aggressive early, because if you're aggressive early in the at bat, you don't get to 2 strikes, or if you do, you can compete. You know, when you get to 2 strikes, Billy, you're out. Look at the statistics. Guys with
more
2
times
strikes,
than not, yeah,
they hit 100. Look at batting averages with players with 2 strikes. Very rarely are you getting hits with 2 strikes. You got to be aggressive early and try to avoid getting to 2 strikes. I think if they do that, they'll be fine. They're about to click. The pitching and defense is there. Just need that offense to come along, and I think they're so close.
And you mentioned some of the bad calls with Enrique Bradfield. I know you saw the 2 strikes that were way off the plate on Davis Diaz at the end, and there was one that was definitely outside or inside on him, and then there's another one that seemed further inside, and they kept calling strikes. So that's part of it. That's part of what you said of, hey, let's bounce back. Let's kind of get going early in the count more so. But Rhett, I want to go to the aspect of playing on the road in the SEC. Is that an added motivation?
It is. It's tough, Billy. Playing on the road in the SEC, it's the toughest conference in the country. Number 1. Number 2, you're playing in some of the most vicious atmospheres imaginable. For example, Vandy's going to Georgia this weekend. Then they're going to Arkansas, right? So, and then finishing with LSU at home. These are unbelievably tough places to play. Arkansas, incredibly tough place to play. You're going to have 10,000, 11,000 people at every game there doing the woo pig suey. You're going to have freshmen who have never seen that and have no clue what that is, and they're going to say, what's going on here? In Georgia, you got a frat house in right field. I remember my junior year, I started the series in Georgia, 0 for 8 with 5 or 6 strikeouts. And they had a huge sheet that they held up, and it was spray paint, 0 for 8, 5 Ks on it. Next pitch, I hit a ball about 500 feet up into the frat. You got to quiet the noise. You got to try and exit the situation that is surrounding you. Lock in, zone in. And at the end of the day, Billy, it's all going to be about getting comfortable in those situations. So it's good for them. I'm glad they're playing at Georgia this week. I'm glad they're going to Arkansas. These are situations they need to play in because these are situations that they're going to face when they go to, a super regional, or if they don't host, if they go to a regional and they're playing against a regional host. This is what the situation is going to be like in Omaha. So these guys need to get into situations where there is a lot of pressure, a lot of people yelling and screaming, and a lot of people that know their names.
Rhett, I want to ask you about kind of, we talked about, Vandy fans and their perception of this team. There's a lot of questions going around. We had our first topic was, is it time to panic? Is it time for Vandy fans to kind of enter panic mode, whatever that means? I said, of course, obviously right now, it's hard not to panic, but with the caveat of, listen, these guys are in final exams right now. Yes, every other team has to deal with that, but at Vanderbilt, it's a different animal, like you said. So I asked you about what would you tell Vanderbilt baseball players, but in terms of the fans, I know we talked about this a lot last episode than you came on last weekend, but in terms of the fans and how they think, what would you tell them right now? Of course, you still got 3 SEC series left to kind of encourage them and say, hey, there's still a lot of baseball left to play. And everything's still in front of these guys. They may not be able to host a regional, but right now, I mean, it still would be a scary team to face in a regional for the 1 seed if they're a 2 or a 3 seed at this point.
Right. And I'm not going to make excuses for them. They need to put up runs. The pitching's there, the defense is there, and it's going to click. You just have to keep having faith that it's going to click, and you got to keep supporting them. You got a lot of young guys in the lineup. It's going to come. You just got to give it time. You got guys getting plugged into new positions all the time, and guys have to swing the bats. And if they don't, somebody will step up. There's a ton of baseball left. There's a ton of baseball left. There's SEC games. There are midweek games. There's an SEC tournament. There is a lot of baseball left to be played, and nothing else up until this point matters. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Look back at 2014. We were average. We were an average team. You get hot at the right time, and all that people remember is the championship. Look at 2013. We set the all-time record for best record in SEC conference play history at 26-3. Guess what? Nobody cares because we didn't win. We didn't win the whole thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the regular season. If Vandy goes undefeated in the SEC and then loses in a regional, guess what? Nobody cares. So it does not matter right now. There's plenty of baseball to be played. There are a lot of games left to win, and you just got to keep supporting the boys and just wait for it to click on offense, and it will.
I got one more here for you, Rhett. Of course, Vanderbilt goes down to Athens. You mentioned, playing in those types of atmospheres. They're going to play at Arkansas next weekend. Of course, a tremendous atmosphere there, and then they'll return home to play LSU. But at this point in the season, do you think playing on the road could be? You talked about it maybe being a motivation, for you when you were playing, but when you've got several guys in a slump right now, just kind of go into a different place, go into a different atmosphere. You travel down south to Athens. Do you think that could help these guys a little bit and kind of, forget about maybe the pressures of sometimes playing at home and even on national television sometimes? They're not going to be nationally televised this weekend. All three of them will be on SEC Network Plus. So is there kind of an added motivation factor for these guys, especially in Athens? And then, you're going to go play in Fayetteville. I know you touched on it earlier, but do you think this is kind of a good time for these guys to kind of go to a different place and a different city and just kind of start playing some good baseball?
Yeah, I think it's always good to change up, your surroundings, especially for the guys that are struggling a little bit right now. It's good to get on a new mound. It's good to get in a new batter's box. It's good to see a new backdrop. And the routine will be a little bit different. The routine will change. You're a visiting team for the next 2 weeks. So your show up time to the field will be different. Your routine in the hotel will be different. Everything will be changed a little bit. And it's going to give these guys a little bit of a different perspective. Going into Georgia, a lot of guys are going to be excited to go to Georgia. They haven't been to Georgia. Some of these guys haven't been to Georgia in years and years, even some of the older seniors on the team because COVID, right? So Georgia came to Vandy in 21. There was no Georgia game in 2020. So the last time you had gone to Georgia would have been 2018 because they would have come here in 2019. So it's exciting. Georgia's an awesome place to play. So is Fayetteville. These are fun. Guys get up for these games. You go to Vandy and maybe you have a couple thousand fans and it's great, but you go to Georgia, maybe you have 6,000, 7,000, they all hate you and they all know your family's names. It's a little different. You wake up for those games. You go to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and you're playing in the outfield and you have people saying things in words you've never heard before. You're playing the corner infield and you have 10,000 people screaming at you on top of you. It's different vibes, man. And people get up for that. It's fun. That's fun. And if these guys want to succeed, they're going to have to get up for that and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Sit back, look around, take it all in, smile at the chicks in the stands, and just enjoy the whole thing.
Just let loose. Just cut it loose this weekend. That's from Rhett Wiseman. Rhett, thanks as always. Of course, this has been great these last couple of weeks, and it's only going to get more fun, especially kind of leading up to Arkansas next week. And then you got previewing Hoover. It's always fun going down to Hoover to play some baseball. So, Rhett, thanks again for coming on, and we'll see if your words can get the Vandy boys a series win this weekend. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Billy.